Hero Quest! Hello again. Hello again, everyone. Do you like my back patch? This is my very, very cool patchy coat. Ooh, that's got all kinds of lovely badges and things here. It's got my colours, traders badges, and my bring out your lead badges, and this very cool Games Day 1986 badge that that Paul gave me, because I was 2 in 1986 and I was not at Games Day, but Paul gave me that. Yeah, very cool. So anyway, this is my very cool jacket. It's so cool it's got Meatloaf on it. See, that's how cool it is. That's Meatloaf shares the jacket with Hero Quest. I'm so cool. So last week I had a bit of a moan. That was not really meant as anything serious, just, you know, being a grumpy old git about the Hasbro Hero Quest and how digital everything is, and how I love analog stuff. And so I said that this week we were going to take a look at whether, for the amount that you would spend on the new Hasbro board game, bearing in mind that they're not shipping it to the UK at the moment, and I'm doing this very much from a I'm based in the UK perspective. So looking at the cost of the board game plus shipping, what shipping would be if you could get it shipped, which you can't, but if you could, whether you could not buy this classic edition, because you can. You know, on eBay the prices there are pretty much the same, so go buy yourself a classic one. But whether you could create a classic style Hero Quest set for the same amount of money, but with nicer figures and nicer components. So that's what we're going to look at. This is not my original Hero Quest set. My experience with Hero Quest started in, I think it must have been 1990. I don't think it was 1989. I think I was too young in 1989. I think it must have been 1990, Christmas 1990. We were at my grandparents' house, where we frequently were for Christmas, and my cousin turned up with a copy of Hero Quest, and I must have spent all of Christmas Day really bugging him, looking through the rule book and looking at all the wonderful miniatures and playing with the gargoyle and wanting to set up quests, and like, Tom, can you run me another quest? Tom, can you run me a quest? Just absolutely besotted with the whole idea, and it really was what got me into miniature gaming. And so a couple of days after Christmas I got a late Christmas present from my parents, which was my own copy of Hero Quest. 10 years later, when I decided that I was far too cool, you know, too cool for Hero Quest, I gave it to the son of one of my mum's work colleagues who was just getting into Warhammer, along with my copy of Space Crusade, along with my copy of Man of War that I got from a jumble sale for about 99p, along with my copy of Advanced Hero Quest that I got from a jumble sale for 99p, along with my second copy of Hero Quest that I got from a jumble sale for 99p, along with most of my Warhammer collection. So pretty much, you know, I'm a teenager, I'm not a child anymore, I don't need toys, throw them away. And then about 10 years after that, I went, oh, I'm an adult now, I want to play with my toys again. At which point, eBay was a thing, and you could no longer get Hero Quest for 99p in a charity shop or a car boot sale. Now they were on eBay for £40–50 a set, which I thought, oh, that's ridiculous. There. Anyway, I managed to pick up this set for I think about £30, and then I bought loads of additional miniatures. So I'm sure you've seen my posts. I've got 70 odd orcs and 70 odd Famir and 70 odd goblins and far too many skeletons, and I would never ever need to put them all on the board at once. But you know, that's what being a collector is, right? You go, oh, that's a bargain, I'll have some more of them. And then you've got to paint them. But my big win that I am totally chuffed by was I never had Ogre Horde or Wizards of Morcar back in the day, or Chaos Keep actually. I only had Witch Lord as an expansion, and I found on Gumtree a copy of, still in box, a little bit tatty, but the figures in one piece, not painted, and all the cards and everything there. A copy of Wizards of Morcar, which a lovely lady in London posted to me for £15, £15. Anyway, so that is probably the only gaming bargain that I will ever get in my entire life, because I used it all up in one go. But I was dead chuffed with that, and the price of a reasonable condition HeroQuest base set now, unpainted, on eBay in fairly good condition, £80, really good, still on sprue, £120 with expansions, 160. I've seen Ogre Horde go for over 100. I've seen Wizards of Morcar go for 160. I've seen the American quests, which I don't like. They're not Games Workshop figures. Anyway, the American quests that were only released in America, I've seen go for upwards of 300 whenever they come up, 400, 500. Insane, just insane. So Hasbro are definitely onto a winner re-releasing this, but re-releasing a brand new version at the same price as you could get the classic, not sure. Anyway, enough of that. Let's go over to the computer and let's see what we can get. How much old school bang we can get for our buck. Okay, just quickly before we go over to the computer, let's take a look at the front page of the HeroQuest rules of play, because it's got this contents list. Now, actually, the contents that you get in a HeroQuest base game, I was very surprised when I got my copy, my new refreshed copy, how few figures there are. I think because I was used to playing with the expansions and seeing a lot more figures in the box, and perhaps when I was younger it felt like more. But there are only 35 figures in here. You've got your furniture. Some of these things, so you know, we'll go through this list. The difficult things are going to be original game books, quest books, screens, special dice, the tokens, the character sheets, and the card decks. So we'll look at those first before we go on to the rest of the contents, the fun bit, the furniture and the figures.
Okay, so my first port of call is going to be eBay, no surprise there. If we're looking for rule books, if we're looking for counters, if we're looking for screens, if we're looking for boards, these are things that we're not going to find on most third-party sites. So let's have a look. There are quite a few spares and replacement parts available, and it used to be that these were pretty well stocked. So okay, we've got pit traps here. $1.95 each for a pit trap. There you go. They are available. No rulebook and no game board though. So let's move on. It may be that some of these have been depleted of the more, I guess, useful, more popular things. Oh look, there's not a lot there. How much are their pit traps? 5 pence more expensive. Shocking price for a pit trap. You could at least get one that's centered better than that. So no boards, no rule books. These are the popular things. I guess these are going to be the things next to the miniatures. These are going to be the things that go quickest. So let's have a look at another couple. We've got cards, but individual cards, I guess they can be expensive. probably a better bet than going to a buy it now part seller is to find an auction for an incomplete set. Sometimes you find people who are selling 2 boards or a board and a screen with nothing else, and it goes fairly cheaply. So those may be good bets. But okay, let's park eBay for now. Hopefully everyone is aware of Ye Olde Inn, with this lovely fetching 1990s looking website. Now this is the go-to site for everything HeroQuest, and has really been the key support and the key driver of the HeroQuest community, such as it is over the last couple of decades. And everything is on here. So if you have a look in here, we've got PDFs of the quest books, PDFs of the treasures, PDFs of the tiles, photos of the miniatures, PDFs of the furniture, plus loads of fan-made stuff. And I don't know, with Hasbro taking it on, I suspect if they're just licensing it, they won't have the clout to take down Ye Olde Inn. I believe Ye Olde Inn was given permission by MD Games to make all of this stuff available to the community, and it would be really unpopular if Hasbro were to insist that it be taken down. But all of this stuff is here. So actually, there is a great deal that you can do without in terms of buying actual components. Print the rule books. The print quality of the original rule books, let's face it, beyond the cover, isn't that wonderful. They're just basically photocopied booklets. So printing these out, no problem at all. And I've seen some people do some really lovely print out and bound HeroQuest books. If you have a look on the HeroQuest Facebook page, there's some really, really pretty rule books and quest books that people have bound themselves, and I've done one bound in amongst my Warhammer Quest bits and pieces as an appendix to my Encyclopedia of Warhammer. So great resource, all there, all available. And with the cards, you can get away with dice tables. There may even be some in here. There's loads of add-ons that people have created. This is a wonderful, wonderful resource, and really will do pretty much all of your card decks and your rule books. So yeah, that's a really good free, completely free. Even these ones, the American ones that are really hard to get hold of and very, very expensive, they've got PDF scans. Everything's here, so you can just download it, print it out. All of these tiles. And if you wanted to then take those files and do something that was a bit snazzier and a bit more professional, there are online printing places. So this, for example, this is Hello Print. This is where I get all of my short run stationery done. They're very affordable. Let's have a look at their booklets, stapled booklets. So let's say you wanted to do the rule books. I should really look how many pages is there in a HeroQuest quest book, for example. Let's have a look. 14 quests in total, so that'll be 24 pages. So you just go, it's an A5 booklet. It's a 24-page booklet. It's probably a 28-page or a 32-page booklet, but let's say. And we'll go with all of their recommended settings, because that's usually the cheapest. And then that's not coming up. Well, if you want one print, obviously that's going to be quite expensive. So there you go. £14.50. Oh no, that's plus £14.50. Why is it not showing me the prices? That's very odd. Anyway, obviously the higher up here you go, the cheaper it gets. So if you can get a bunch of 50 people together, get them printed, they'll be really cheap. can get a bunch of 10 people together to share the cost to get one printed each, it's still going to be considerably cheaper than one each. So that's quite a nice way of getting something professional done if you didn't want to go down the route of binding your own book. And this is also, they will do some quite thick cardstock, so you might find that actually there are ways of getting furniture and pit trap, tokens and counters and things done this way. The other print on kind of print it yourself site that I wanted to show you was this one, Ivory. So these guys I've just used to do the cards for the Dreamstone, and they are absolutely beautiful, really lovely. And yes, it's they're geared up to printing in mid-run, so not one, but also not hundreds and thousands. Hundreds, yes, but thousands, no. So if you want to do a short run, this is really good. But also, they do this. So a custom box of 56 cards is £28.50 plus VAT. So obviously that's quite expensive for one, but it does mean that if you wanted a professionally printed treasure card deck, you could just upload those PDF files to Ivory Graphics and print them out. So not cheap ways of doing things, but these options are available. I want to bring this one up. This is Patriot Games in Sheffield. They do custom vinyl mats, and I know some people on the HeroQuest page have had their mats printed professionally. So this is again somewhere you can upload your artwork. Again, it's not cheap for one, of course, because it's printed on demand for you, but these are options that are available. Now, of course, one of the best thing about HeroQuest, to my mind, is making it yourself. And it's very easy to do that. It's very easy to start off making a custom board. Get yourself some Depron sheet, get yourself some foam, get yourself some foam core, get yourself some cardboard and some filler. It's very easy to start cutting out dungeon tiles and making that board, and from there you can work up to walls. If you want walls, you can make doors. If you want doors, you can work up to furniture. I personally love seeing all of the custom made HeroQuest stuff that people pick up. I think that's far more interesting than seeing another lovely painted standard board. HeroQuest in its simplicity is to me all about customizing. It's all about adding your own character development, your own quests, your own expansions, your own way of playing. I play with different dice. So dice is another thing that we haven't talked about, but there are plenty of places that will do laser cut dice for you if you want to pay for them. Alternatively, you just work on a D6 basis. But I actually have some custom D10s that I use to change the odds around a bit, and I find that works quite nicely. So all about customizing. So that basically covers things like the rule books and the tokens and the board, things that are harder to come by third party, but there are options out there if you don't want to make your own. So let's come to furniture now. Moving on. Obviously, I'm going to Scotia Grendel first. If you want classic fantasy furniture, it gets no more classic than these guys in continuous production since, I don't know, 1980 something. Quite early on. Lovely bits of furniture here. Nothing that is exactly like the HeroQuest stuff. You have to take a bit more of a kind of high fantasy take with these things, but there's a cupboard. Yes, okay, this is an Apothecaries Cupboard, but you can paint it up as a standard cupboard. Maybe that would work as an alchemist's bench. And the price is £8 for those two. They're not expensive pieces, but of course, if you're trying to stock an entire dungeon in these, it can get pricier. And actually, there are some things in here like this maybe that's a good sorcerer's table altar. But maybe you don't want the sconce and you don't want this bit, so you don't want to pay £8 for the whole thing. Maybe they would sell you that for £2. I don't know. So I know Elton and a couple of guys from Scottish Brendel. I used to take some of their stuff around shows. Oh, look, weapons racks, but you might only want one of these weapons racks. And so I sent them an email last week to say, hey, just on spec, maybe if I put together like one of these and one of these and some doors, because they do some really nice doors. Where are their dungeon doors? I'll find them. There you go. These really nice. I mean, they're quite short. They're sort of 25mm, but hey, it's a dungeon. The ceilings are low, so there you go. I haven't heard back from them yet. We'll see if they're up for doing a little not HeroQuest set for people who want a classic resin dungeon. There you go. There's a rack there. Throne, bookcase, yeah, bits. So if you pick and choose from here and there, there's plenty of stuff here. The other option for this is something like Mantic. They did this Dungeon Essentials terrain crate. I noticed that a lot of these terrain crates are out of stock now, so maybe you have to go secondhand to get these. These painted ones look really nice. I have some of the doors and some of the furniture, and I have to say, when it's in plain plastic form, it's really uninspiring. But this just proves that it can paint up. It can paint up quite nicely. And obviously that crate, this is a bit sci-fi, but hey, 2 maybe weapon racks, throne, table, book cupboard, bookcase, doors, chests. This is kind of designed with a bit of dungeon bashing in mind, isn't it, really? And I think a lot of these terrain sets, just looking at this desk that's in the background here, I don't know what that is, but that looks like quite a nice alchemist's table. They're obviously done by people who have experience of playing HeroQuest, have the HeroQuest furniture in mind for populating their dungeon with. So that's another alternative. If we move on to miniatures, my go-to for low-cost miniatures here is always Ralph Europe. They do some really, really nice classic miniatures and modern miniatures in a classic style. Their website is a bit rambling. It's not, you have to kind of go through all of the categories to find the things that you want, but I did go through again and do a list. I went through and did a list last week of all of the figures that were on this website that I thought were great alternatives for playing HeroQuest. And I haven't heard back from them again, but Paul at Ralph Arthur and I do speak, because I still take, whenever shows are available, I still take a stock of Ralph Arthur Europe stuff around with me. It sells reasonably well. Very pretty sculpts. I like these a lot, and they actually have basically everything that you would want for a HeroQuest set you can find on this site. Normally for £2.50, £2.25, around that mark per figure. 35 figures. That's still going to be that's going to be £75-ish for the whole lot, which that's a lot, but it's the kind of thing that I guess you can build up over time. You can start off with the heroes, get those painted up, then pick some monsters, then pick some more monsters and add to it and build up as you go. But they do have all of the creature types, and again, when I put my list together, I sent, how about doing this set with a discount on it if I can get enough people interested. So maybe that will happen. The things that were not so successful on this site, mummies. They've only got the one. There's a pulp horror pharaoh in a chair that doesn't really work, but they've only got the one mummy, so there are 2 in the box game, so you're missing 1. The other thing is gargoyles. They have a gargoyle. It does look quite large, but if I try and get a larger picture up, yeah, the large picture is not showing, but it's not a particularly frightening looking gargoyle. I mean, they're not expensive, are they? At £3 a pop, but these ones, they're not particularly inspiring either. So I still think for doing a decent gargoyle, you'd be better off going onto eBay and trying to find an old school bloodthirster. So here you go. Here are some classic. There's the gargoyle. Here's a Games Workshop classic bloodthirster, and here's the Marauder bloodthirster. And obviously the Marauder one, I think, is probably the closest to the original, while sort of building on it. But he's super duper rare. I think he was unreleased, so you won't find him available. This one is the prototype, which is in the cabinet at Foundry, I believe. Or not this one, because this one's Richard's, because he's cool and he's got all the unreleased things, bastard. So there's a plastic gargoyle. I think if you want something that's very, very close, recognisably, and this is what I've gone for, is this Realm of Chaos Citadel bloodthirster in this configuration, but I've modified the whip so that it's doing more of what the prototype one is doing, and that's what I'm going to paint up for my big Hero Quest set. But yeah, that to my mind is better than the Ralpatha gargoyle. On the subject of super affordable old school miniatures, I can't pass without saying Alternative Armies. Here we go. These are their adventurers. I've just called these up, and these are actually on sale at the moment, which is good. So there you go. You get 10 adventurers for £21, and you get a free treatment at the moment as well. So that's bargainous. But if you want them, you want to pick individual ones as well, they're available here from £2.50. So they're also very very cheap, very affordable classic miniatures here, and you've got a bit of dungeon terrain as well. In fact, they have just released some more 28mm scenics. If you want a bit of I don't know, adolescent adolescents will see that in your dungeon. There's the Torture Chamber collection, which has racks and things with people on them. But here you've got tables, chairs, £1.75 for a table, 75 pence for a chair, £4 for a set of shelves. These are not expensive ways of furnishing your dungeon. So it's also good for terrain. If you want super cheap monsters, EM4 miniatures. Heroes, these are the old Grenadier ones. They're also available from Forlorn Hope, which has now been taken over, I think, by Moonraker Miniatures, so you'll find those on Moonraker's site. These are all, lovely Mark Copperstone classic sculpts at £2 a piece. Can't go wrong. In fact, this guy I'm using for my Hero Quest Barbarian, because I think he's great. £2 for a hero, can't go wrong. But some of their stuff I've noticed is currently out of stock, and what I was going to recommend on this site is their Plastic Fantasy Orcs, because you can get no closer to classic Hero Quest Orcs. The detail is nowhere near as good as on a Hero Quest Orc, but even down to the base style, that's obviously what they're supposed to represent, and 25 pence for an orc. So you can very easily fill your dungeon full of orcs and dwarves, but that's all that they do. And actually these polearm orcs, it's even better if you can pick 50 spear orcs for a tenner, 48 assorted orcs for £10.50, but they're sold out. So hopefully they will retool, but I would imagine that most of these plastics are the same plastics that have been around since the 90s. They've eventually run out of stock. But I still think these are not a bad replacement for HeroQuest Orcs if you want a really, really cheap dungeon. Now, at the other end of the spectrum, I can't let a session on HeroQuest pass without talking about Zealot. You may have been aware of their Twisting Catacombs scenery Kickstarter, which funded several years back now, and their stuff is in the shop. So there is absolutely oodles of really lovely stuff on here, including, you know, this Lichmar dungeon. The Boris, I'm not even going to pronounce his surname, apologies Boris, fantastic sculptor, has done this absolute homage to HeroQuest. 35 models. There's your base set, but 265. This is not a cheap option, but it is probably one of the most beautiful dungeon furniture out there. If you want a very, very plush dungeon. The only thing that I will say about this is that the stuff looks really pretty, and it's really, really fine resin. When I painted the stuff that I got, I did find that it was not that easy to paint. It's the kind of thing where you're putting in wood grain yourself a lot of the time. You're having to highlight very carefully because the textures just aren't there, whereas you get a bit of Scotchy Grendel terrain, all the texture is on there, so you hit it with a dry brush, you hit it with a wash, it looks perfect, it looks great, it looks really gribbly, whereas this you've got to be a bit more careful, spend a bit more time on it. So if you wanted to knock out a dungeon, this is not stuff that you want to knock out. Mind you, at £6.50 for a table, this is not stuff that you want to be knocking out anyway. But I need to mention Zealot here in any case because of their availability. So what's my conclusion? Well, let's be honest. Let's have a look here. That board, that's pretty identical. This is in a different place, but that's pretty identical to the original. It's not, it's redrawn, but the style is very, very similar. This card art, yeah, it's a bit manga-y, it's a bit, you know, very, very digital. But honestly, on this side, that's pretty faithful, you know, that's pretty much like the Gary chalk. So in terms of an affordable way of getting a base set, I think actually, you know, fair play to Hasbro, they've done this. This is going to be the cheapest way of getting all of these cards, all of these rule books, all of the board, the screen. It's really just, you know, even the miniatures, you're not going to get 35 miniatures from somewhere else for the same level, and this is going to be more than 35 because it's got bonus heroes and things. So it's in terms of value, this is definitely going to be the best value, even if you then up spec your miniatures and put something classic in. This is probably, you know, it's a good value. But if you want a classic style HeroQuest, I still think make your own board, print out and bind your PDF rulebooks from Yoldi in. Find people who are selling custom dice. There must be loads of people selling custom HeroQuest dice through the forums on Yoldi in. Get together with a bunch of mates and get some card decks printed from Ivory Graphics. Make yourself a board using Hearst Arts cast plaster stuff or carved foam. Buy some Scotchy Grendel scenery. Buy some Ralpatha or some alternative Armies miniatures, and you'll have a really classic, nice looking board. But it won't be £75 or however much this is. It will probably be more like 150 plus quite a lot of work by the time you've done that. So, you know, yeah, there isn't a very cheap, cost-effective way of doing a classic dungeon, I still think it's worth the effort.